She writes quite a bit for the Chicago Tribune. She's also written for the New York Times, Health Magazine, National Post, CBC, and today's Chicago Woman, which also hires a lot of our students as interns. She covered the 2010 trial of former Governor Rod Blagojevich, and he should be sentenced by now, but hasn't. A little delay there. Yeah, she's the author of a blog about Blagojevich at blogojustice.com. She provides live updates via Twitter from her Twitter account, which you are all following, Ms. Journalist, twitter.com/Ms. Journalist. She also covered the Connie Black trial in 2007 for CBC, which we'll talk a little bit about too. Wrote a column called From the Inside, a Spectator's View of the Week's Courtroom Happenings. She's reported for CBC Radio and TV, the French press agency as well. She authored a blog about Connie Black at blacksjustice.com. Freelance for the CBS News Early Show in New York. Appears on WGN TV quite a bit from the Tribune newsroom. Has been a guest on Chicago Tonight, another place where I've seen Susan quite a bit, particularly during the Blago trial. You showed up on there a few times. You can see her work at BergerReport.com, which she'll show you as well. So please welcome Susan Berger.
Hi, Bob. Thank you. So you've got my background and you know about my two blogs and everything. So first I thought I'd just tell you some of my thoughts about Twitter in general. And I think you guys are probably really familiar with it, but you know, to my friends that who are not in the business, they go, well, what's Twitter? What's the point? I mean, it's like, what are you going to have for lunch? And you know, as you know, if you're in the news business, it's a lot more than that. It's really not frivolous. It has been really instrumental in a lot of breaking stories over the years. You guys probably know that there was a plane crash. These are the ones where people on Twitter broke the story. Not AP, not CBS News, but when there was this plane crash in Denver, Colorado, I think, Continental Airlines, a passenger was the first one to break that. The earthquake in China in 2008. People, just normal people who were Twittering, that's how they found out. The terrorism in Mumbai. And the biggest story of all, of course, was when bin Laden was killed. Someone tweeted that before news people even got it. So to me, it's a great medium. If you guys decide to follow the right people, you could sit there with your iPhones or your Blackberries or whatever and just scroll through your you know, who you're following, and you can really see what's breaking news and what's really big in whoever you want to follow, whatever your area is. But it's all about who you follow. So if you find somebody whose tweets you really like, and let's say it's, I don't know if you know Rebecca Skloot. Rebecca Skloot wrote the book about Henrietta Lacks, and she just won an award. And I actually I went to a conference at the Harvard Neiman conference and met her. She's great, and she, like, you know, if you like somebody's tweets, look and see who they're following, because then you can get ideas of who to follow. So it's a great way, like, you know, you might, actually, my biggest thrill was I was following Roger Ebert, and Roger only follows a handful of people, and with Blagojevich, he started following me. You would have thought, like, I won the Pulitzer Prize. You know, he's like, that's pretty cool. So, you know, be selective about who you follow. I don't think you want a feed that's full of, like, people that you don't care about, you don't care about what they're saying. Follow the people that you think are really interesting. The other thing about Twitter is I really think it helps your writing. Now, I know some of you are going to go into print and some are going to go into broadcast, but either way you're going to write. And you know that old saying, there's an old saying that if I had more time, I'd make it shorter. You know, it's the editing's always the hardest part. Well, Twitter with 140 characters, when you're doing it, particularly in a courtroom, where you're doing it all day long, and you really have to get down to and do it quickly because you don't want to miss the next thing. It really helps your writing. I think it does, and it helps you just also focus in on what the nut of the story is. The other thing about Twitter, particularly in the courtroom, and I said this, I was on WTTW talking to Phil Ponte, and I said, you know, it's really like reporters' answer to not having cameras in the courtroom. When I started doing Twitter for Blagojevich at the first trial and at the second trial, I had a lot of reporters in Chicago who were following me, who couldn't be there every day. there were 3 of us that were at this trial that I think were really, the 3 that were really tweeting the most. It was Natasha Korecki from the Sun-Times, Stacy St. Clair from the Tribune, although she wasn't there towards the end, and me. And if you were following the 3 of us, you weren't going to miss anything that was going on in that courtroom. I mean, literally, we pretty much had it covered. What else? Let's see. You know, and the other thing about Twitter, too, is if you're writing and if you're getting published, it's a great place to put a link to your published work. So when I do have a story in the Tribune, I always tweet a link to it, and so people, and you're just going to get, you know, much more coverage. So it's important. So let's talk about Mike asked me to talk about the tips about Twitter and what you should know. And I'm sure you guys probably know about hashtags. Okay. So when I first started doing Twitter, it was like, I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was in the courtroom like the first couple of days, and I was doing and I was quick. I mean, I could really, you know, bang out the whatever was going on in the courtroom. But I didn't know about hashtags. And finally, somebody who was following me sent me a message. And you know, you get, when there's a direct message, you get it. And he said, you got to put a number sign in front of Blagojevich. It's called a hashtag. I mean, so he told me, and I had no clue at the first trial, like, at all. So the hashtags are really important. And if you want to follow topics, you know, you can go in and just search. It's just a great tool. I don't know if you guys read the New Yorker magazine, but I think it was last week. There was a really great cartoon, and it was some clergyman at a funeral giving a sermon, and he starts out by saying, the hashtag for today's service is Jerry's dead. So, I mean, I thought, there we go. It's like, it was pretty funny. But, so here's my other tips. When you start, first of all, you pick a handle. You know, that'll be your name or whatever. Some people use that automatic replies. You guys know what that is? Where you automatically sign up and they say, thank you for following me on Twitter. It's too, you know, it's not personal enough. Don't do that. If you want to, you know, it's nice if you want, it's nice to reply to people who comment on your Twitter. It's nice to take a minute, maybe not in the middle of, you know, live stuff, but later in the day to say thank you for following me or thanks for your comment. If you're covering, like, well, I was going to say in a courtroom, but really in almost any area of news, do your homework before you go. Oh, I'm going to show you something on my website, too. When I first went into the Blagojevich trial, okay, see what it says, names to know. This was my cheat sheet. And this guy, Phil Smith, who came from Florida, he was also doing a blog about the trial. He put together this. I have a big thank you to him on my blog. I was never in the courtroom without this sheet of paper. If you're going to be doing Twitter and it's fast, you want to spell people's names right. You don't want to think, well, how do I spell it? And you don't want to get it wrong. So before you go, first of all, do your homework about the trial. And try and know what the issues are. Read the indictment. Read most of the paperwork, so you know what to expect, what the issues are. And then the thing with the names, it's just really important. And who's who, because courtroom can move, it can be slow as molasses, or it can move so fast you don't know what's going on. And so if the lawyers are talking and they're bringing up names, you want to know kind of what they're talking about. And it takes time to sort of feel your way, but at least do your homework so you're prepared. In the courtroom, try and sit up close if you can, if you have a choice. I mean, the bailiffs only, they'll let you do certain, they can be tough in certain courtrooms or whatever, but sit up as close as you can, because some people speak clearly and some people don't, and if you can't hear, then you can't report. You can't, you want to be able to hear what's going on. And in the same vein,